Hi guys, welcome back to my channel and welcome to a new video. So today I'm going to review Killing Commendatore by Haruki Murakami. This was published in 2017 and I own the Portuguese editions. Here in Portugal, his really long novels, really thick books, are usually divided into volumes. So Killing Commendatore has 2 volumes, 1Q84 has 3 volumes. I actually prefer it this way because I take my books everywhere with me and it's just better for me, for my back, to carry a normal size book. Still, like, for some people this is like really long, but it's a normal size book rather than just a beast. I really like the Portuguese translator. We only have one translator working with Murakami, and that's Maria João Lourenço, but sometimes she also translates his novels with Ana Lourenço, so I'm not really sure if they are related or not. I haven't checked, but I do know that she's the only one working with Murakami, and so if you like her translation, you'll be like me and you'll just stick with her. But I would like to read one of his novels in English one day just to see if I don't know, if I enjoy it or not. But I don't know if in English, for example in the UK, if there's only one translator working with Murakami or if you have several depending on the edition. I don't know. I really like the fact that we only have one translator because I got used to her style and the way she translates his thoughts, and I just think she conveys the message pretty well, you know, considering that Murakami's writing is just so magical and, you know, just so dreamlike. But nevertheless, I'm not really sure because I don't know Japanese, so I can't read the original novel. Today I'm going to review this book and just this book. I mean, I'm not really going to talk about each volume separately. I'm just going to talk about the whole story as one. I am going to give you a brief description of the plot, but that's difficult because Murakami's novels, you know, dwelling on magic realism, they always turn out to be very complex and it is really hard to explain without spoiling the story. So I actually took some notes and that's why I'm looking over there, because I have my laptop right here, and just, you know, in case you're wondering why I'm not looking at the camera, that's the reason. I'm just looking at my laptop because I want to make sure that I don't say anything that might turn out to be a spoiler. The story follows an unnamed narrator, and at the beginning of the novel he finds out that his wife has been cheating on him. She just sits down one day and tells him, and she wants a divorce. So he was not expecting that. He does what any sensible person would do. He quits his job as a portrait painter and he just goes on a road trip. And I immediately connected with this guy because I never did that. Like, I never just dropped everything and, you know, got in my car and drove. But I could see myself doing that if I went through a traumatic experience, and not necessarily alone, a bit afraid of just like going on a road trip alone, but I could totally see myself doing that. 2 years ago I went to London for 3 days in August alone, just because I was going through some stuff, and it was amazing. It was just so liberating, you know. I cried, I smiled, I laughed. I just, you know, I was reborn like a phoenix. That is what this guy was trying to do. And during this time, he actually encounters 2 very interesting characters, and he doesn't know this at the time, but they are going to have an impact on his life. After coming back and gathering the rest of his belongings, our protagonist moves into a house in the mountains that actually belongs to a famous painter, Tomohiko Amada, who has moved into a nursing home because he is quite old and he's sick and, you know, he's not going to last long, so his son decided to move him into a nursing home, and he was okay with our narrator living there because they actually know each other from university, they're friends, and he wanted someone to be there just in case, you know, just to take care of things because the house is quite isolated, it's in the mountains, and he's scared that something might happen, so he felt comfortable with having our narrator moving in. So upon his arrival, he finds a painting hidden in the attic entitled Killing Commendatore, and it is portraying a scene of the opera Don Giovanni, but it is painted in a very specific Japanese style. So even though our narrator was able to do the connection, someone who is not well versed in opera and doesn't know Don Giovanni would not understand that right away. And that's what's just so interesting about Murakami's characters. They always have this amazing knowledge on classical music and opera and just history in general, and I really like that. He knows that if the painting is hidden, it's because the artist didn't want anyone to see it, so the painting is completely unknown to the public. No one knows he painted that, and he just decides to keep it that way, so he doesn't tell anyone. He wants to go back and be a real artist. He wants to paint whatever he wants, so he uses the painting as like the starting point. He looks at the painting, you know, looking for inspiration, and he wants to motivate himself, but at first he finds that really difficult because he was a portrait artist for so long, and now it is difficult to go back and just paint whatever you want. In the meantime, he's just, you know, he's teaching painting classes at a social center thing in town twice a week, and the rest of his time is just spent looking at Killing Commendatore and trying to find inspiration. One day, he's contacted by his old boss, asking him to paint one last portrait of a mysterious man who asks specifically for him. This man, Menshiki, sorry if I'm butchering the name, but I don't know Japanese and I'm trying my best. This man, he also lives in the mountains. He has this magnificent white mansion. He's very secretive about his life, his background, and he doesn't even quite, you know, he doesn't really explain why he wants his portrait painted. It's just like, oh, I would like to have a portrait painted, and I've seen your work and you're good, so here's a lot of money. We ended up finding out that his desire to have his portrait painted by our narrator is related to his own personal interest of getting closer to a 13-year-old girl, Mari Akigawa, who he believes to be his daughter. After finding out the hidden painting, after meeting Menshiki and discovering also an old temple in the forest near his house, our protagonist's life is just turned upside down, and he finds himself, you know, in the middle of a magical alternative plot to his own life. And even though he just wants to be left alone, he feels compelled to do something, and his role is quite important to everyone's lives. I don't want to give away too much. This is the main idea. Obviously, then you have all of the magical features coming up, and it's just super interesting. The first half of the first volume, I can tell you that, I mean, I don't know what that means if you only have one book instead of two, obviously, but the first half of the first volume is quite mundane, meaning that the magical features, you know, they're building up to something bigger, and, you know, it is just something that is coming your way and you don't even know, you just get hit. And it is very sudden, but then after you reflect upon it, you think, okay, now that I stopped to think, I can see that this was coming, but I wasn't paying close attention because it was so subtle. Basically, that is the plot. I've watched a couple of videos reviewing Killing Commendatore, and I also read reviews from The Guardian and The Independent. Those reviews don't actually give away too much. They just talk about, you know, Murakami's legacy and, you know, his tribute to The Great Gatsby, because that's something else. We have here on the blurb, it says that it is a tribute to The Great Gatsby by F. Scott Fitzgerald, and that's one of the things that I'm going to talk about. So if you haven't read the book and you are sensitive to any kind of spoiler, I would suggest that you just, you know, read the book and come back. I'm not going to talk about specific things related to the plot, but important things that people apparently have a problem with, and I just wanted to give my 2 cents on the matter, since I love Murakami so much. I want to start with the unnamed narrator. So this is a common feature in Murakami's novels. We have a protagonist, but we don't know his name or her name, and apparently people are feeling kind of bored by this feature because they say that it's not fresh anymore. You know, I disagree. I still find it fascinating that Murakami can write a character from a very personal point of view, make the reader care about them, and not disclose their name. I actually forgot at some point that I didn't know his name, because I felt that I knew him well enough. You get involved with Murakami's characters easily, and talking about this protagonist, it's just you get involved with him because he's basically alone, and you sort of feel like you're the only one there for him. And you know, you get involved with his routines and his lifestyle and his hobbies and the music he listens to, the food he eats, and it is just so, still to me, it is really refreshing to know that someone can write a character like this and I don't even care, or I almost forgot the fact that I don't know their name. It is just not important. I know everything about them. Like, there is a reason why his characters don't have names. I'm giving my 2 cents. I might be completely wrong, but at least that's what I feel. I don't know if this is Murakami's aim or not, but it still mesmerizes me. I don't know why people think that it's boring, or, oh, okay, an unnamed narrator. Again. Well, there's a reason why, probably. Then we have a very common feature as well in Murakami's novels, and that's the extramarital affair. So our narrator, as well as other characters from different Murakami's novels, he meets a married woman and he has an affair with her. I find it quite funny and actually interesting, but I don't know if this is actually consistent or not, because I haven't read all of his novels. But the ones that I have read with, you know, affairs, the men are not married and the women are married, and it's more or less always like this. And I don't know, part of me thinks that it is a commentary on the unpredictability of life and just like how everything is temporary, especially relationships. So I'm not sure if that's his aim or not, again, but at least that's what I feel. But at the same time, I think there's something else there. Just because, you know, the man is always single or divorced and the woman is always married, I don't know if there's something there, but at least I find it really consistent, but at the same time really interesting as well. So it is not new in the sense that I've read some of his novels with this feature, but at the same time it's always different. You know, the experience that this narrator goes through is completely different from another character. It's not like Murakami is writing the same character. That's what I'm trying to say. He might use the same feature, but his characters have different experiences nonetheless. This leads me to the sexual content present in Murakami's work. In this book, it is very, very explicit, so I wouldn't recommend this if you are a younger reader. And people seem to have a problem. They said, oh, you know, the sexual content is it is common in his novels, but this time was very explicit, not sure why. I have a theory. Part of me believes that it is because our protagonist struggles for so long with his sexual identity during his marriage. That's why this time the content was just very explicit. Not sure if that's true or not. Again, I haven't read all of his novels to tell you that, you know, it never happened before. Obviously, his experience is going to be a lot more explicit and raw, rather than something like following love and like taking it slow and all that. And then we have The Great Gatsby tribute. A lot of people think that the only thing in common with The Great Gatsby is Menschke's desire to meet Marie. And so he got this huge mansion on the other side of the mountains just so he could keep an eye on her house from his balcony. He thinks that she is his daughter and he wants to find a way to meet her, and he wants to keep an eye on her house just to make sure that everything is okay. A lot of people think that this is just a tribute to the green light because Gatsby sees the green light and he knows that Daisy's house is over there. But I actually feel like there's more to it. For instance, the constant presence and conversations about jazz and cars, like, you know, all of those features from the modernist era, you know, that just screams Roaring 20s. We also have like characters that know a lot about liquor, like good booze, and they drink to reflect. They don't drink to get smashed, you know. Whenever they drink, it's not just because they're going through something or I need to drink to get the edge off, you know. It's just, let's drink and think about this. They always decided on buying good bottles of wine or good bottles of scotch. Our main character doesn't know a whole lot, but, you know, he's learning. and he knows how to appreciate it, which is very important as well. And finally, just to close up this circle about The Great Gatsby, we have Menshiki. What was I saying? Was I saying Menshi? It's not Menshi, Menshiki. Menshiki's character is a very complex one. He's very secretive about his life, his background, and he only opens up occasionally to our narrator if it benefits him. So just like Gatsby, he just doesn't disclose everything. You are left with a lot of questions, a lot of unanswered questions, just because he didn't feel like you needed to know everything. He only tells you what is appropriate, and he just does it because he knows that it's going to benefit him somehow. And because of that, I feel like his character is, again, very, very similar to The Great Gatsby, to Jay Gatsby, because he wouldn't disclose everything either. He wouldn't just tell you what you wanted to hear. And it is interesting to see that similarity. And finally, we have something that is very common again in Murakami's novels. A lot of people seem to think that this is sexist, unnecessary, they're tired of it, just they don't understand the point. I'm not saying that I have the answer, but I do have a theory, and that's describing women according to their breasts. There are a lot of passages of our narrator talking about women and referencing their breasts. So for some reason, it's not sexually implicit. He is just basically describing them, but he has to reference their breasts. I don't really think that this is just here because it is. I don't think that when that happens in a Murakami novel, it's just there because, oh, I don't have anything else to talk about. This could be a commentary on how men look at women in layers, you know, starting with the external physical appearance and then building their way up to their inner self. It is a possibility. I'm not saying that I got it and you didn't. I just think that this is very plausible, and it is something that, I don't know, I think a lot of people haven't considered. And I don't really think of it as being sexist because he is not, he's not characterizing or he's not ranking women according to their breasts. Like, oh, I like that one better because of this. No, he is describing the physical appearance of a woman, and he makes reference to that. Why does he have to do it all the time? There's probably a reason. Because it's Murakami, I have a theory. I don't know if it's correct or not. So if you haven't read Murakami before, I wouldn't know if this is the best book to start with because I haven't read all of his novels. And I also think that the magic realism experience in this book is very confusing and subjective, and that's why I try not to dwell too much on it. Let's just say that all of these three big things, our narrator's road trip, moving into Tomiko Zamada's house and finding out his hidden painting, Killing Commendatore, meeting Menshiki and finding out his intent on getting to know Marie and somehow trying to find out if he's his daughter or not. All of these features are going to cross paths, and somehow they're going to be intertwined. This book weaves this amazing story of self-reflection, getting to know yourself after a traumatic experience and having to go through hell to come out on the other side. I was not expecting the ending. I couldn't predict this ending in a million years. Murakami's writing is very beautiful, very visual, just dreamlike almost. And I think in this case, because I'm reading the Portuguese translation, I think that our translator does an amazing job with that, because I think it really captures those characteristics of his writing. Sometimes I find myself just missing his writing and having to choose another book. I have 4 right now to read. So I'm good for a while. I'm already missing it. I love his stories. It's just I want to know more, but at the same time, it's just there's a real vibe of naturalness and pureness to his novels, and I just feel like, you know, I'm home, and it's an amazing feeling. I also really think that The Great Gatsby tribute is really fresh and interesting, and I think there's a lot here that could be used, you know, for a research paper or something. And yeah, if you're thinking about it, let me know, because I would love to hear your opinion. So if you have read this book before, let me know if you agree with what I said or not. Just tell me your theories about all the things that I mentioned, and yeah, I hope that you will pick this up soon because it is amazing. I don't rank books using the star system, but when I say that it is amazing, it is amazing. So that's it for today. I hope you're well and safe, and I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye!